Canon is lining up for a couple of really big months. We've also got Instagram finally on the iPad. DSLRs prove that they're still moving in decent numbers, and Canon's next bodies and glass are building some serious momentum. So let's jump in. On a quick note, I want to mention that I am tired of worrying about if some of this stuff is repetitive, because I know that I cover a lot of the same stories as we go through some of these things, but these updates are going so fast. I am doing my best to consolidate things into individual videos, and a large majority of the folks that watch my content don't watch multiple videos. So obviously, if you're one of those folks, go ahead and hit subscribe. But while some of these subjects are definitely things that I've covered even just this week, we've got new details and I felt that it was appropriate to make new videos. And the first bit of news is on Instagram, which personally I hate and I think is a garbage fire. It's a complete disaster, but I'm required to use it as a photographer. And it's on the iPad now. And according to The Verge, Instagram is coming to the iPad with a dedicated app roughly 15 years after the platform's debut. The report highlights that the new experience brings proper support to the iPad, including full screen reels and stories in an interface designed for the tablet's larger display. For longtime iPad users who've been stuck with the web or scaled up iPhone experiences, this is a notable shift for Instagram and a long requested update that aligns the app with how people actually use tablets. So it's a small headline with a big quality of life improvement impact for creators and casual users alike. If you've been waiting to watch or post reels without letterboxing on a tablet, this is your moment. But next, let's talk about units and shipments and why the mirrorless versus DSLR debate is a little more nuanced than sometimes it sounds. So mirrorless is mainstream, but the brand by brand story is where it gets pretty interesting. And specifically when we start talking about DSLRs, because the latest shipment numbers might actually make you take a bit of a double take. According to Digital Camera World, citing DC Life and Nikkei Financial's yearbook, their industry map, Canon shipped 790,000 DSLR units in 2024. That's 90% of the entire DSLR market. They didn't launch a DSLR in 2024. They haven't launched a DSLR since 2020. And Nikon's DSLR units dropped from 440,000 back in 21 to 70,000 in 24. But Pentax is holding steady at 10,000 units. At the same time, mirrorless shipments have grown by roughly 1.6 million units since 2021, a 43% increase, underscoring that mirrorless is the growth engine of the market. Nikon's numbers, for example, went from 290,000 in 2021 to 760,000 in 2024. But the story behind the DSLR's resilience is practical. Canon's continued success likely leans on attractive entry-level bundles and a massive base of EF mount users who see no reason to switch when their existing kits work well. Pentax, meanwhile, isn't chasing trends. It's leaning into the tactile artistic appeal of DSLR with cameras like the R6 Mark II aimed at photographers who value a specific experience. The point isn't that DSLRs are winning, it's that they're still meaningful and a choice for some people. And so when we ask questions about why companies are doing certain things, you kind of have to realize that companies like Canon don't have to make certain choices because the cash cow is at the bottom end of the market. And right now, Canon is still selling a considerable number of older DSLRs, and the other cameras that they're selling a ton of are R10s, R50s, and the kits that go with them. So if you still shoot with a DSLR, what's the one thing that keeps it in your bag? I'd love to hear how you're using it today. But moving over to lenses, we got another rumor for wildlife shooters that honestly I think a lot of folks have been waiting for a while, which is an RF 300-600 f4 2f 5.6 L IS USM. So this is a long discussed RF super telephoto lens, and it looks like it's sounding closer and closer to reality. According to Canon rumors, the RF 300-600 f4 to f 5.6 L IS USM with variable aperture is in final testing and is expected to be announced before the end of this year. The reported aperture behavior is f4 at 300, transitioning to f6 after 400 through to 600. Pricing is estimated between $65,000 and $7,000, with hopes that it might come in lower. Additionally, teleconverter compatibility remains unknown. We just don't know if it will support them, but if it does, a 1.4 support would yield an 840mm f8 option that I think a lot of bird photographers would welcome. Canon Rumors also notes that there have been related patent applications for variable aperture super telephoto RF designs, though nothing that matches this lens exactly, and it's not common to see exact optical patents before an L series release. One interesting context point, this lens is expected to cannibalize the demand for the RF 100 to 500, f4.5 to 7.1 IS USM, simply because of the faster aperture range that a lot of folks have been asking for. Canon Rumors is placing high confidence in the rumor and hints that a flurry of Canon announcements are going to be landing in the coming months, including the cinema gear like the EOS C50. So if size, weight, and optics land where people are expecting, this could become the go-to RF wildlife zoom, but there's still that big outstanding question about teleconverters. But let's keep the Canon momentum going with a look at the R7 timeline, because it sounds like there might actually be one. I've been talking about the R7 since May of this year, when we first started getting rumors about the R7 and the potential for an R7V. Now, the R7 Mark II is not going to be a surprise. It's time for that body to get updated, and it's been in the hands of testers for a while. What changes today is that literally 3 days ago, I read a report, and I made a video about it, that we would be getting the R7 maybe in 4 to 6 months. But I'm now reading rumor reports that might throw that on its head, because that may actually refer to the shipping and not the announcement. And the rumored specs are pretty significant. A 33 megapixel stacked CMOS sensor, the Digic X processor plus the accelerator, continuing the 40 frame per second burst shooting that we've been seeing in Canon cameras with that pairing, and a fully electronic shutter, ditching the mechanical shutter. Additionally, adding pre-continuous shooting, 8.5 stops of IBIS, and 4K 120 in 10-bit C-Log, plus the kind of upscaling that we expect to see from the Digic accelerator, probably the enhanced autofocus that we see in the Digic accelerator, like action priority, as well as design changes to the body itself being larger than the original R7 and more like the R5 Mark II, with a pronounced EVF bump, as well as a repositioned joystick and a rear LCD that tilts vertically instead of the traditional side flip. And again, this all seems to make sense. The EVF bump would make more sense if they put eye autofocus in it, which I think they will. And the tilting screen has been something that we've been hearing about for a while now, and are also expecting it on the R6 Mark III. So for Canon's APS-C ecosystem, that combination reads like flagship class capability in a crop body, which would be an awesome play for action and hybrid creators looking for speed and video features, but in a, I won't say smaller format, because it might be the same size as the R6 III and the R5 II, but maybe just in a smaller format when it comes to your wallet. And if these specs hold, I think the R7 Mark II would be a significantly more ambitious direction for Canon to be going, and I am here for it, especially considering the fact that the APS-C, the RFS mount that the R7 Mark II would have, is effectively open to third-party lenses, and there's a lot more support there. But we're also hearing news about Canon's next full-frame hybrid, the R6 Mark III, with an expectation for a soft announcement anytime between now and mid-September. And again, I reported early in the summer that we were expecting a dual event, and I still think that that's going to happen. And we keep hearing news about September 15th, but now we have September 9th as the C50 reveal date. So I'm going to be honest, I think, I'm going to go off on a limb here. I think that we're going to see in September, maybe on the 15th, an announcement for the R6 Mark III and the R7 Mark II together with effectively the same features: improved autofocus, Digic accelerator, 40 frame per second shooting, 4K 120, improved vari-angle screen, with the R7 Mark II being cropped and the R6 Mark III being full. I think that's what we're gonna get. And I think we're gonna get it before the end of September. But I don't think it's gonna ship until next year. Because with the Z6 III out there and the potential for an update to the A7 V, even if it doesn't come until next year, Canon needs to respond in the next few months, even though the R6 Mark II is still performing exceptionally well. And if you wanna get it performing even better, check out my settings video for portrait and family photographers. So if Canon staggers the cinema and hybrid launches, we may get a clear runway for the R6 Mark III before we get into the show season next year with CES, WPPI, and NAB. All of which I will be attending and doing as much video content from as possible. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. If you want to meet up, let me know. And if you want to support what I'm doing here, consider becoming a channel member. It's $1. And if you're looking for a photo or video session with me, all the details are down below, including links to some of the gear that I talked about in this video and the gear that I use for all of my studio stuff, everything on location for photography. Those links do go to support the channel, but the easiest way to support the channel and what I'm doing here is to hit like and subscribe. That's always free, and it goes a long way to helping me grow here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.